All right, welcome back to another drum lesson. My name again is Zach, and I'm teaching here with Community Works. I hope you all are staying safe and staying mildly sane as we continue to work through these virtual weeks of ours. All right, well, hopefully you've gotten yourself a pair of drumsticks and you found a surface to practice on, whether that was a book or the bottom of a shoe or something like that. And we're going to start out this week's lesson reviewing the basic concept that we talked about last week, this push and pull, this drop stick motion. It's like a whipping motion with your hand that allows the tip of the drumstick to travel down to whatever surface you're playing on. And then, like we were talking about last time, we're working on controlling the rebound, that moment where the drumstick makes contact with the surface and then naturally wants to bounce back up. And we are working on how we can control that. And we talked about a couple different basic stickings that we can use to practice that idea. That first being the single stroke rule, where we're letting the stick hit the pad just once before we bring the other stick down. 1, 2, right, left, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, left. And again, it's not as important to focus on how many times the stick is hitting if you're not also focused on what it is that your fingers and your wrists are feeling and doing while you're actually playing that drum, that sticking motion. Because if we get used to using our arms, you can see how my elbow is moving and doing all the work here. That's what I'm trying to avoid. That's what this drop stick motion allows us to overcome. You can see I don't even have to move my elbow in order to control the way the stick is moving. And the reason we want to do that is if we get into the habit of using our elbows and muscling our way through the stroke, there's a point at which we can't go any faster, and we also lose all that dynamic control. Remember, dynamics are how quiet or how loud our instrument is. And one of the biggest things that we have control over as the drummer, people always talk about the drums controlling the time of the music. And the way one of the big ways we control the time is our dynamic range, how quiet we're playing or how loud we're playing. It sets an example for the rest of the musicians that we're playing with about how loud or how quiet they ought to be playing. And that allows the music to breathe. It allows the music to come alive and really start to take some motion, really start to become a living entity. So it's so crucial and important to be able to control your sticks and be able to play really quiet, but that doesn't mean doesn't mean when we're playing quietly you have to always be playing really slowly. It's just a little easier to play quiet when you're playing slowly because there's less notes. We want to be able to play fast, but also to be able to play quietly with a lot of control. So that's why it's so crucial that we're focusing on this. This is the technique I know to help me control my sticks, and it's a good one. This push and pull motion, whereas the stick hits the head of the drum, it rebounds and kicks our fingers out like that, and then we just close our fingers again. So the first way we're practicing that again is just single strokes. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. The second stroke we talked about was a double stroke, which is just like the single stroke, except we allow each stick to hit the surface twice before we start the next stroke with our hands. And what's different about the single stroke and the double stroke, besides how many times the drumstick is actually hitting the surface, is what we're doing with our hands, right? So with a single stroke, I'm bringing the stick from this full stretch position down and then returning it, which means my fingers are closing and opening and allowing that stick to open my fingers back up very quickly. With a double stroke, you're going to actually close your fingers and to trap the drumstick close to the head of the drum. That was a little inaccurate. Let me do that again. The main thing with the double stroke is as you bring the drumstick down to the surface of the drum, it kicks your fingers open, and then as you close your fingers again, you have to allow your wrist, this is where your wrist comes in a little bit. You have to allow your wrist to be like an extension of that stick. You can see it's hard to do it slow because I don't have as much of the rebound going on. But as I'm closing down on the tip of that drum, or the back of that drumstick, and it's traveling towards the head of the drum, I'm allowing it to kick my wrist up a little bit so that I can get a fluid motion. So the drumstick can travel with as little hindrance as possible back up to this full stretch position. So those are the two strokes we worked on, the single stroke and the double stroke. And then as you remember, we learned how to put them together in that first sticking exercise, the paradiddle, which is just single, single, double stroke, single, single, double stroke. And you notice that that pattern repeats, but it repeats on the opposite hand. So if I start with my right hand, go paradiddle, then I start with my left hand. Paradiddle, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, 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 left, right, left, left. Just like that. So today I want to continue on teaching you some basic drum stickings. Because like I said at the beginning of the last video, there's really only four. There's the single stroke, there's double stroke, there's what's called a press roll or a buzz roll, where it's like the double stroke, where you drop the stick into the head and then allow it to kick out the back of the fingers and then catch it and push it back in. But you leave your back fingers, a little looser and allow the drumstick to buzz across the surface of the drum. That's why it's called a buzz roll. You can also call it press roll because as you get going faster, you're pressing the tip of the drumstick into the surface of the drum and allowing it to buzz there. It's kind of like as you start going really fast, you can see that it's more like I'm pressing the back of the drumstick just down away from me. Press, 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 press. That's why it's called a press roll. That's another one of the basic drum stickings. There. Everything that drummers are doing is comprised just of these four basic strokes. And you already know two of them. You already know the single stroke and the double stroke. And now you have access to this third one, press roll. A really good way to practice this is just to start in this full stretch position. Actually, that's not true. It's easier to start kind of like at a 45-degree angle, halfway up, and drop the drumstick and just let it bounce like a bouncing ball technique, or bouncing ball exercise. You're just trying to get the drumstick to bounce as many times as you can without helping it along its way. You're just letting that natural rebound we've been talking about do all the work for you. And then you can start doing it back and forth with each hand. And the trick is to keep your fingers loose enough on the stick so that you don't stop the drumstick from bouncing, but not so loose that the stick flops around in your hand, because that's just a little too funny. So what you're looking for is that happy medium where you're tensing on the drumstick kind of right when it hits the drum head. Tense and release, tense and release, tense and release, tense and release. And you're doing it so fast, and you're doing it back and forth, that you're trying to get a smooth flow of sound. I talked last week when we were doing our single strokes about making them all even, trying to make the volume of each stroke even. So as you got faster and faster, it was like collecting a bunch of little sound dots together to make one solid shape. Same thing with the press roll. You're trying to make each rebound of the drumstick equal to the next. So it's like filling in one big shape with a lot of little tiny dots. It's really helpful to do this on a surface that doesn't have any buzz, like a snare. So when you do it on a snare drum, the snares kind of mask, and they can make it easy to think that all of your rebounds are the same volume when they're not actually. So if you do have a snare drum at home, which is sick, awesome, hope it's the love of your life. If you do have a snare drum and you're lucky enough to practice on that, try turning the snares off to practice this technique, practice this stroke. Because that will allow you to hear each individual hit a little easier. And it will ultimately help with the quality of your press roll. All right, so we've got single strokes, double strokes, and press rolls. Again, just practice allowing each stick to bounce as many times as you can. How many times can I do it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a million. I could get like a million. So you should be able to get at least 1,000,002. Hopefully 1,000,003. That would be awesome. So work on getting your million bounces, and then once you can start feeling, there's a real feeling that's happening in my hands. As I can feel the tendency of the drumstick to kick back up against my fingers, and I'm pushing back against that. I'm starting to find a flow where I'm controlling how the drumstick is coming off of the drum head, and I'm pushing it back down. Press roll, press roll. So you've got those three, and the final one is called a flam. A flam is one soft hit and a second, typically louder, but maybe we shouldn't start like that. It's 2 hits, one small and one big. So what I'm doing is the stick that's closest to the drum head. This is actually a nice way to start for this sticking is with one stick close to the drum head and one stick up in this full press position, and you're going to switch them. So the stick that's closer to the head is going to hit first, and the stick that's farther away is going to hit second. And what you're doing is you hear that little, it's like a ta-da, ta-da. That's called flam. They're used all the time. There's a lot of different rudiments that use flams. We can actually do all of our sticking exercises with flams as well. But for right now, let's just practice this sticking in isolation. So you're going to start with one stick close to the drum surface and one stick up. You're going to bring both down to the drum head. And whichever stick is closest to the drum head is going to reset into that full stretch position. Reset, reset. And you can, a trickier way to think about it, but something that's true, is the hand that's in the full stretch position, it's got your fingers are open. As it comes down to the drum head, you're going to close your fingers like that second hit from the double stroke. Close your fingers to trap the tip of the drumstick close to the surface of the drum, but you're not going to snap back into position like you would if it was a double stroke. You're going to just trap it near the surface of the drum. The stick that was closer to the surface of the drum is going to snap back up, like the second half of the double stroke. So it's kind of like you're doing that stroke, the double stroke, all of its movements. It's down, where it stretches out your fingers, and then trap it near the surface of the drum and bring it back up. It's kind of like you're doing that whole stroke split between both hands. And the result is that flam sound, flam. It's two hits, really close together. So that's the second drum stroke. Actually, that's the second one I'm talking about that's new to you today. But it's the fourth one and the final one for anything you can do on the drums. Everything that you can do on the drums is some combination of single strokes, double strokes, buzz rolls, and flams. All of it. Every single one. Paradiddles, single, single, double, single, single, double. We can do it with flams too. We can go flam, diddle, flam, diddle, flam, single, double, flam, single, double. And that's going to be our new exercise today. We're going to make a flam stroke starting with our right hand. Goes flam. Let's see you do that again. Flam. And then you do a single stroke with your left hand, single, and then a double stroke with your right hand. And you got to trap the tip of the drumstick close to the drum head to prepare it for the flam that starts in your left hand now. Because remember, paradiddles travel back and forth starting on alternate hands. So we go flam, diddle, and then we start over with our left hand. Flam, diddle. Flam, diddle, flam, diddle, flam, diddle, flam, diddle, flam, diddle, flam, diddle. So the last thing I'm going to talk about today is just how important it is to practice all of this with a metronome. Haven't ever seen a metronome in real life? I don't know. I guess this is kind of like real life now. So in my day, in ye old days of yore, you used to have wooden blocks on top of your piano, or maybe sometimes then you turn into plastic. Now a lot of them are on your phones. So you can go onto an app store and download a free metronome app and get used to it. And then you can set different tempos, meaning the speed of the music, and then use that to practice. Can you hear that? So each time that click happens, I'm thinking of it as a beat. Flam, diddle, flam, diddle, flam, diddle, flam, diddle. You can go twice as fast. go 4 times as slow. The reason it's important to have a metronome, see I'm even talking in time now, is because it helps guide how fast you're playing the exercise. So you're not changing the rate of the exercise sort of willy-nilly with how much concentration you're putting on it. It helps focus you in on what it is you're doing and keeps you within a consistent time frame. All right, that's what we've got for this week. I hope you are having fun practicing. All the different strokes that we've been talking about. Single strokes, double strokes, press, rolls, slams. And remember, the most important thing that we're using throughout all of this information is this technique of dropping the stick and controlling the rebound, allowing our fingers to sit all the way down the drumstick and controlling how that drumstick is moving on and off whatever surface we're playing on. Plastic bucket, bottom of your shoe, couch cushion, book, your sister, until she breaks your drumsticks, so careful with that one. Anyways, that's the key thing. Controlling the rebound. Controlling the rebound. Everything comes from that. Until you get that down, you're not going to be able to go very fast, and you're not going to have nearly as much control. All right. Happy practicing. Again, my name is Zach. Thanks for tuning in to the Community Works. Google got this on Google Classroom. Then thanks for visiting the Google Classroom. Or if you logged on through the YouTube channel, thanks for coming to visit us that way. I hope you're staying safe, and I look forward very much to seeing you in real life, IRL, pretty soon.